Political parties need to use social media more effectively to encourage young people to vote. This is according to the think tank Demos.
1,018 to 25-year-olds took part in the survey. More than two-thirds of them said online voting or the ability to register and vote on the same day would encourage them to have their say.
Ciara Brodie is 16 years old and has a keen interest in politics. Next to her is 25-year-old Robin Miller-Stott, who's chosen not to vote since the last general election. Welcome to you both. Robin, I'll begin with you. Many people say if you're not engaged in politics, you don't have the right to talk about politics or moan about what's going on around you, i.e. poor services or the poor state of the country. So why have you taken the view that you don't want to vote?
Well, I voted at the last general election, but I chose not to at the last local government election because I just felt that I didn't really know what I was voting for, what I was going to get. I didn't really know who my councillors were. So therefore, I wasn't really sure when I was voting what I was voting for. I took it with a heavy heart that I didn't vote, not doing it. But at the end of the day, I just felt that voting the local election, for me, I wasn't going to get much from it. Whereas at a general election, I felt that it was making a bigger difference.
All right, Ciara, you're 16, so you won't be able to vote in the general election, but you'd be very keen to if you could.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, politics is all around me. It's everywhere, and in the future, it's going to affect me just as much as it is now. And I think engaging in politics from a young age is important because you don't suddenly wake up on your 18th birthday a walking political dictionary. So I'm keen to engage in politics now and sort of develop my knowledge. So when I am 18, I will vote, and I'll be able to influence the future of my country and my kids' country.
The point Robin brought up is a point that anyone at any age could bring up, that what the message they're getting from political parties isn't clear. So you don't really know what you're voting for, which policies apply to which parties and how they differ. Do you feel you're getting a clear picture, or do you feel you have to make an extra effort to find that, to get a clear picture?
As a young person, I feel like I know there's one political party who has a youth manifesto that I know of, but in terms of getting young people engaged in politics and being able to differentiate between the different political parties, I find it quite difficult because I'm not exactly able to read a political manifesto before I go to bed or anything like that. And the kind of stuff in the ways in which you can engage in politics is by, say, watching Prime Minister's Question Time, which isn't the easiest watch because you can't always gain much substance from it because sometimes it's just a shouting match, or certainly appears like that.
Yeah, Robin, do you think that the main political parties are doing enough to engage with young people?
I think it's kind of hard to say because I voted in the last general election. That was my first general election that I voted in, so I suppose, and there was a lot of attention around it. You had the kind of the leaders' debate, so it was more engaging with more people. And I suppose at the time I was going through university, so the policies and the issues were different at the time. I was more interested in education and kind of getting into employment, whereas now I'm in jobs, I'm thinking, when am I going to get in the housing market, how am I going to do it? So it's kind of changing, but it's still quite hard to find out and clearly understand what the parties are putting forward.
Ciara mentioned Prime Minister's Questions Times. Now, there are some proposals. Demos has suggested the House of Commons introduces a tough code of conduct during Prime Minister's Question Time, perhaps to make it a bit clearer and less rowdy, so to speak. Is that the way you would engage, watching it on television, or do you think social media needs to play a bigger part? I suppose the question is to both of you.
Well, I mean, I do watch it, and it's kind of fascinating, unique thing that we have on a Wednesday, but a lot of it, you don't really feel that you're getting answers. It feels a bit like a personality contest between the two leaders, so therefore, a lot of the issues are possibly being glossed over a bit, and when other MPs are speaking, they're just kind of shouted out. So it feels that sometimes if you're voting for these MPs, are your issues being taken seriously in the House, or are they just kind of being laughed at, really?
Yeah. For the recent Scottish referendum, 16-year-olds, of course, Ciara, were allowed to vote in that. Do you think that would get young voters going if people your age were allowed to vote in the general election?
Definitely, and I'm a big supporter of vote to 16.
Do you have... Some would say, we'll ask, have you got the political maturity, though, to register your opinion properly at that age?
Well, what I
you
think...
have, clearly, but who most...
When you're between the ages of 16 and 18, there is no more political education or extra knowledge that you get that makes you more informed when you're 18. Like, as I said before, you don't wake up on your 18th birthday suddenly a walking political dictionary. So I think I definitely support Vote to 16 because it's easier to get young people engaged in politics because, of course, now further education through colleges and sixth form is compulsory or apprenticeships. So I think things like hustings towards the general elections, visits from local MPs and politicians.
What about online voting? Would you go for that as an idea?
Definitely. I mean, I see plenty of debates on Twitter, Facebook, social media about feminism, about conflict around the world, things like that, all over Facebook and Twitter. So young people and people in general do associate social media with politics. So I think it's appropriate to now introduce voting online.
Very interesting idea. Thanks very much for sharing them with us this morning.
Robin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.